This is Garden Variety, a horticulture podcast from Iowa Public Radio and Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. I'm Charity Nebbe. When you plant a tree, your hope is that it will remain healthy and strong for decades to come, maybe even more than a century. The recommendations for what to plant, well, that changes more rapidly than the trees themselves, and sometimes that creates some frustration and even controversy. Here to talk about these recommended plant and tree lists is Jeff Iles, professor of horticulture at Iowa State University. Jeff, welcome.
Good morning, Charity. Good to be here.
Now, most of us never see these lists, so for those of us who don't, tell me what we're talking about.
Well, I don't know how many lists I've created over the years, but people always ask, professionals and lay people alike, what should I plant in my yard, on my property? And so over the years, I've created lists, as has every plant nerd, lists of recommended plants. And every list is going to be different. Every list has a lifespan. That's a great question. How long does a plant list remain viable? That's a good question. Maybe 6 months to a year. I'm horrified.
Really? That?
Well, I'm horrified by some of the things that I used to recommend. I look back at my old lists and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Why did I recommend that? Because we learn things over time.
Right.
This is not a static thing. So maybe a year is a bit short, but certainly no longer than 5, because there are new additions every year. There are some that you take off. So it is a very flexible, dynamic list. But they're useful because people don't know what to do. I mean, think about it. Go into a garden center and you're bombarded with all this different plant material. And how do you know which one is an appropriate one for your own applications?
All right. So, I mean, obviously, that's when we turn to experts like you to make these lists. But of course, the lists also reflect your own personal interests and passions.
They do. I hope to think, like to think that my lists are created based on experience, on research, on what I hear from my colleagues, and what I hear from the people that are introducing these plants. So it's not just monolithic. It's not just one viewpoint. But therein lies the problem, because not everybody will agree with what appears on any individual list. As you know, there are some folks that will go to the mat over native plants only, and they don't want to entertain the thought of using introduced plants. That's fine. That's a conversation we can have another time. The word cultivar is one that has come under fire recently. Cultivar is a shortened version of cultivated variety. So think about any species. Consider crabapple, for example. And within crabapple, there are selections. We call those cultivars. And so if you want a white flower crabapple with no fruit, then you would choose a crabapple called spring snow. And if you buy spring snow in Detroit, in Davenport, in Denver, all the same. You know what you're getting. And that's one of the benefits of cultivars. You know exactly what you're purchasing. The argument against cultivars is that you're narrowing the gene pool, that you're planting a lot of one thing, especially if it becomes popular, and you're narrowing the genetic pool out there in the landscape. So, and that's a valid argument. Autumn blaze maple is the famous whipping boy these days. It's a plant that we've used ad nauseum. We've used it too much. And now it's overpopulated and everybody makes fun of it. It's not a bad tree, but it's overused.
Right. You see it absolutely everywhere. Although, okay, so someone liked autumn blaze maple, put it on a list, but it proliferated because people who were buying trees also really liked autumn blaze maple, and they saw it in their neighbor's yard and they said, hey, I want to have one of those. I love that red in the fall. So, I mean, this is a dynamic system. It's not just the person who makes the list.
Well, and if I'm in the business of selling trees to the public, am I going to take autumn blaze off my inventory? Helping the world, but I'm also losing some sales.
Right.
So there's that problem as well. But again, autumn blaze has been overused. Maples have been overused. I will cop to that. But does that mean that I should be in the business of not having maples on a plant list? I don't know. I love sugar maples, and I love some of the cultivars of sugar maples. So I'm not quite that in that place yet. So.
It's there are so many dynamics involved in this. I mean, I'm starting to think, just from what you're saying, Jeff, is that maybe we should have maybe a bio at the top of the list so we get to know Jeff Iles and we understand why some of these choices may have been made, and we know that he has a predisposition to crabapple trees. And
well, what I try to remember is I try to recommend plants that are well adapted to this state we live in, because it's a hard place for a woody plant to be. And so my recommendations are based on things that I've watched, that I've seen succeed here, and that I think are aesthetically pleasing. That doesn't mean the list is set in concrete. But
we've certainly learned things over time,
sure.
And we've had new diseases and new invasive species, and that has radically changed the list.
Well, who would have ever thunk that green ash would be under the gun because of an introduced pest? Well, my entomologist friend to my right here, my wife, will remind us that emerald ash borer was not, it didn't come here on its own. We helped it get here. But who knew that it was going to cause such death and destruction to a native plant? And what's the next problem coming at us? What's the next biotic issue that's going to land on our shores? And that's the reason people are worried about maples, because there is an insect out there that likes maples. Now, we've got it corralled in certain parts of the country. But what if it got loose? And we'd all have egg on our face again, just like American elm or ash.
So people are going to disagree about these lists, but also as a homeowner, I need a place to start. They're certainly valuable. Tell me what the discussion is like when you put out a list like this. Do people give you a call and say, hey, Jeff, I don't think this tree should be on your list?
Well, what drives me a little nutty, though, I'll create a list, and there might be a lot of plants on that list, but it's not like you're going to a restaurant and choosing something from a menu. Not every plant is going to work well in every landscape situation. So even a list as good as mine is going to require some interpretation. You can't just take that list and just start picking things off of it and plugging them into the landscape. It requires further information. Talk to your garden center professional. Give me a call. Talk to other people. But that list is only as good as, the interpretation behind it.
The other thing is that, over the years of talking to Forester Mark Vitosh and many other people about trees specifically, it feels like we need to actively work against human nature in what we recommend with trees, because humans seem to love a long row of identical trees.
Yep.
We've been planting that way since we started planting, and that is an area where we run into trouble again and again with elm trees, with ash trees, with autumn blaze maples.
Right.
So, you're creating a list, but it's not your responsibility to also change human nature.
Well, it is and it isn't. That's why I'm not invited to parties anymore because of my association with cultivars and plants that have become overused. But you're right. I advise people to look at their neighborhoods and plant something that you don't see, just in the sake of diversity. But again, who am I to tell you that, Charity, no more pizza for you? You're not ever going to have pizza again. Well, it's like the same thing with autumn blaze maples. You cannot have that plant. That's not my job, but you're right. So I try to encourage people, remind them that there are other things out there, native and non-native, that are fantastic plants. But that flashy tree with a great fall color, boy, it's hard to walk away from that.
It's true.
Well, but we need to.
So give us some practical advice, because, looking at lists from people we trust, and of course, a lot of people who listen to this show turn to Iowa State University
Right.
Extension, and there are lists available on the website with all of these recommended plants. We do know that a plant needs to be able to thrive in the site that you have for it.
Right.
We also know that the climate is changing, and sometimes plants that didn't do well in a place are going to do well. Sometimes plants that used to do well are not going to do well anymore. So having this information is important for a homeowner. What's the process that you recommend? Start with a list, but then what do you do?
Start with a list and then go to a garden center that you have faith in, confidence in.
How do I know I have faith in this garden center, Jeff?
It's an iterative process. I don't know. We're lucky in the state of Iowa to have some really good retail outlets that we can go to. And I don't know, just strike up a conversation with people. But that's that's a great question. I'm thinking if I was the garden center operator, I would do this. I'd have great signage. I'd have great salespeople, and most garden centers do. But it requires deep thought. How big is that plant going to get? Will it tolerate the soil pH that I have on that site? Is it disease and insect resistant? And then what do I want it to do aesthetically? And so, choosing trees isn't rocket science, to use an overused phrase, but it does require some thought before you start digging a hole. And so I don't know if there is an easy way. You can always enlist the help of professionals to help you make those decisions.
You also need to look around the neighborhood, too. I mean, I'm fortunate to not have a whole lot of neighbors, so I feel empowered to plant what I want.
Yes.
But if you live in town, that's your forest, that your street, your neighborhood is the forest that you're planting in. So you do really need to take that into account.
You do. And you mentioned the lack of diversity. We have street upon street of autumn blaze maples. And again, we're beating up on autumn blaze maples again, which is unfair. But this tree, as I watch it 30 years down the road, hasn't aged very well. It has some bad branch angles. It tends to fall apart in heavy winds like we had last night. And so, yes, look around and look at older plants. Which ones are doing well in their older age and which ones are not? And we go back to oaks. A lot of oaks do very well as they mature. So, look around. Try not to duplicate what your neighbor's doing. And if you like fall color, there's all kinds of choices. There's other trees you can use. So I didn't mean this to be a harangue against autumn blaze maple, which is done all too often. And I grow tired of hearing about it. So I'm sorry. I apologize to your listeners.
Right.
and I know garden center operators across the state are saying, what is he doing to my bottom line? Why is he doing this? But
right.
there's other good plants out there.
And other good plants that you should sell or you should buy from those particular people. So we only have like 30 seconds. Is there another tree out there that you think, calorie pear is a great example where people planted it and it was a terrible mistake. Yeah. Is there another one out there that you're like, oh, we made an awful mistake?
Well, we worry about Norway maples. We worry about some of the shrubs, the barberries, the burning bushes have all become invasive nuisances. So it's a long list.
Jeff Iles, professor of horticulture at Iowa State University. For more gardening information and tips, please subscribe to our Garden Variety newsletter. Find out more at iowapublicradio.org/garden. I'm Charity Nebbe. Garden Variety is a production of Iowa Public Radio and Iowa State University Extension. It's produced by me, Erin Stile, Caitlin Troutman, and the Iowa Public Radio talk show team. For more garden goodness, please subscribe to our Garden Variety newsletter. Just go to iowapublicradio.org/garden. I'm Charity Nebbe. See you next time.